So if now we go to the next aspect of business, which is finance and accounting. So finance is finding the money to finance the company, raising capital, borrowing money, and so on. Accounting is counting it afterwards to see how things are going and where the money is going. And when we had a phone call to plan this panel, and the question came up, okay, how is accounting going to be different whether you're EOC or not EOC? And it was, I think, John who said, wait a minute, here's a difference. So do you want to start with that? So how do EOC companies do accounting and or finance differently?
When we first started out, this awareness of what the EOC was, we would kind of go through the entire year, and at the end of the year we would see how much profits we have in a classical sense, and then we would write a check for how much we thought we would give, and that check would go away kind of out there. It was a little bit like philanthropy at the beginning, to be honest with you. Over the years, I've come to understand that a lot of the things we do in the EOC business, we didn't have accounting methods to track those kind of things. And so we began creating financial categories within our business for EOC efforts. Community situation, community efforts to build unity. We would classify things in terms of if we were not an EOC business, we would never ever do this because it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint, right? But some things we chose to do, we thought we need to track this to understand them. So we began tracking them. Even hours donated that I would never donate, Flying here today, I could make $1,000 at home if I weren't here. That has value that we just think, well, we're just donating that. No, we need to understand all those choices, and so we have probably 10 categories, and we track EOC expenses. And at the end here, it's like, wow, there's a lot of effort, a lot of little things we didn't track if we hadn't. So, and why are we doing that? We're trying to do that because people ask, how do you know you're being impactful? Americans want to quantify. What are you doing specifically? So unless you track things, you don't have an account of what you're doing. So from a financial standpoint, we track that. And we've been doing that for the last 10 years.
And the EOC model does have as principles to consider in freedom to distribute your profits in a third kind of methodology, where a third goes to help those who are in need, and including possibly doing the kinds of work that Liz is doing, helping them to really advance their own jobs and opportunities. A third to education, and a third to building the company, or building the reinvesting in the company. So you've got to be able to track. So if you're going to say, I'm going to try to give a certain percentage, you've got to have some tracking mechanism. I'll tell a story about another EOC company that had a particular challenge with that one time, and I can tell it because I asked this owner if I could write about it, which I did, write in an article about it. Anne Gabeau is the head of Spirit Tours, located in Montreal, and I asked her a question one time about, what challenges do you face as a leader with regard to the idea of transparency when it comes to money and your accounting and your finances? Because many companies will not share a lot with their employees about the books other than what might be required, especially if they're a public company or whatever, but you don't necessarily, certainly probably not share salaries and those kinds of things. But one year, she was not able to, didn't have enough in their net profits to be able to share a bonus with the employees. And they had been used to that almost every year, and then all of a sudden there was no bonus. And so she heard kind of the talking in the office about it, and someone said, well, is that because we heard that you give money to charity as a company? Did you give away our money that should have been for our bonus? Well, she really had to think about how to respond to that, because she said the answer was no. I have certain ways that I spend and distribute the net profits of the company, but I didn't do that instead of pay you the bonus. You didn't meet certain criteria that we had to meet. in order to receive the bonus. She said I was torn in whether I, say something and explain it and be transparent about it, or whether I say, sorry, this year we didn't have one. She said, I decided I needed to be transparent as possible, so I actually opened the books. She said, I want to give the opportunity for all of you to come and take a look at what we did with our net profits this year, and where it came from, where the profit came from, and what the criteria was for paying a bonus. And then you'll be happy to share that with you. So she did, and she said it almost instantly, just by offering to open the books, made a difference in how they perceived her as a leader and her willingness to be transparent. And so we have those kind of challenges in EOC businesses. What do we do, and how do we tell, and who do we tell what we're doing with our money? So it's a conscious decision, and in that case I think she made a great decision, and she's grateful that she did.
Other examples or questions around accounting or finance?
Maybe more finance, actually more about budget and taking care of employees. Last year we had to make the decision, as many of you see business start small and they develop. And as you grow, you start thinking about, okay, providing some services for the employees that are expected, like healthcare. And so you start with, paying healthcare for the employee. And last year, the big decision to make for us as a company was to start extending benefits to the families. And just bringing the subject up was a divisive subject, because with some people, I thought I had hired people would say yes, and some people would say, here we come, we're going to pay for it, the government or whatever. And other people, I'm scandalized by your attitude. And what saved us is that we have a culture code where we sat down, and said, we want to abide by things. It's like, what do the cultures say, in our company? Put the other first. So let's use that as a criteria and think about, through that lens, how we want to answer this question. And it changed completely the dynamic. And it was like, well, I didn't have to say anything, and everything fell into place to the point where they said, well, if to do that, we cannot hire this many people, but we want to still meet those objectives, so do we believe that that can create a dynamic where we can be more productive? And in my mind, I was thinking, I also believe in the providence, God, if we do this, I want to do this for you, but you're going to help us here, as a shareholder here. And that's what we did. And we extended, benefits to family, and the response from the company was amazing, because apparently one of our employees, their child got diagnosed with leukemia very quickly. Huge expenses, etc. Without that, it would have been devastating for the family. I think we got out of 60 employees, and last year we had probably 12 new babies, and I think that people, I felt that they could support our family. And on the flip side of that, this year we had a 35% increase in premiums, because we had a lot of illnesses we needed to take care of in the family, and all these babies born. And we had to have the same discussion again. And the team still said, no, we want to make that into faith here and do the right thing for our employees. And if we do that, we'll be taken care of. And my side is like, I need to read my progress to help us here, because it's a big expense. But those kind of dynamics can happen if you live those principles. And it's not always, you see, it's not automatic. It requires some balance in your heart.
Chiara spoke of the witness and the value of providence in a business. What part does providence have in your business? And how do you either receive it, distribute it, and so forth?
Well, as a startup, it plays a huge role. There's been many weeks where my first responsibility, especially because we have a social enterprise model, so we're actually employing these women. So my first responsibility is that I at the end of the week, I'm giving them their paycheck. More than anything else that goes on in the business is like, I promised somebody a job who's already vulnerable, and I need to build their trust in the system, and so I need to make sure I'm getting it ready. And week after week, it's just like, I don't know, it's Monday, and there's clearly not enough money in the account for when Friday rolls around that I have enough money. And it's been, I almost can't count the amount of times when a donation came through, or someone paid the check from some commission work that we did, or we had an event and we sold so many products, and so by the end of the week we made it. And there's just so many of these moments where really that Providence is, or that display of community has come through and shown that not only are we supporting ourselves through this business model, but we're supporting ourselves because of this community that we built. And every time it's like, oh, whew, because you don't even know they're coming, right? So you're like, you don't even know where did that donation come from? Like, I didn't even solicit that, you know? And so you get lucky every time. And
just to add to the question though, Providence can be thought of as money coming in, but it could be defined as many other things, you know, like an unexpected whatever coming into your business and that kind of. And it can be used as a tool, as a witness. Okay, it certainly witnesses to you in your divine providence and so forth. But how are you able to use that as a witness to others to say, this is what God is doing in my life?
I guess my most recent example this past week, one of our employees, so we're not paying the highest wage, right? I'm selling in ways to my employees that this is a valuable experience beyond the job, because I have to give them a reason why they want to stay here and engage in our program beyond what they're making in a wage. That there's reason why they're not going to, they'll make $10 here versus go somewhere else and make 15. And I had one employee, she was sharing, she's had a very difficult time. Her partner had lost a job, and they were just trying to meet the bills and having a very difficult time. But she's also very focused and determined. She wants to work towards going back to school, so she wants to work on these other things where she left here and her job she wouldn't necessarily be able to work on. So seeing all this, and I shared, we had some donation, and I felt, okay, this is a good moment to share some of this with her. And so, and just wrote a letter with a little extra money saying how much you're appreciated here, and that you mean to be part of this team because of the talents and the gifts that you bring in terms of, she provides a lot of mentorship to the other employees, and that I can't always share in a financial value with them. And so I put it in an envelope and I gave it to her. And she came back around, she said, you wouldn't even believe it. I ended up, my uncle, yesterday, he sent me $200. And I said, oh, well, that's very good you asked. She said, no, it was just for my birthday. He never does that. And so she started to recognize how there was fruit being created in her life and in her community, and sharing that experience with me as well. And then that motivation to keep going and share her talents with the other women. So yeah.
You know, it's a sensitive thing sometimes about how you share providence, because if you share providence in a wrong way, it can seem kind of puffy and why is God smiling on you kind of thing. Our experience is we used to experience providence so much that John Welch and I, when he was in the same building, we would always say, "Providence strikes again." It was so often. And I liken it to that the EOC kind of gives us a special pair of glasses, and the providence has always been around all of us, but we begin to recognize it. and this gratitude kind of spills out. And so, things with employees, when something unexpected, like I had someone pay a $40,000 bill 5 years late. And my accountant said, you should have been writing that 4 years in a row. We need to write that off. No, it's a reminder that I need to stay in relationship with this person. And 5 years later, $40,000 came by. Providence strikes again, and some of our employees get, we have, and that doesn't, someone can also think of Providence as magic, or something like, we're not involved in the whole Providence game, but we have to, it's connected to how we love and the relationships we build and that kind of relationship capital from which goodness comes back to us. That's what I look at it.
Any question, Ian?
Just sort of to add on that.
Oh.
Did you have a question?
Nope. Okay. Very good.
Elizabeth got it.
Sort of just to add on that, outside of the financial realm, I think Providence is in ways an abundance mindset, and so there's this belief that we will never lack, right? We always have enough, we can find it, we have resources. And I think by being able to see that, and the more that we practice seeing that, it allows us to take these risks and that we wouldn't normally take if we didn't believe that our needs would be met.
So the last company-specific area, I want to bunch two things. One is leadership, and the other one is how do you maintain or shift the center of gravity in the economy of community and company so that it's focused on unity and reciprocity and so on, and away from just a drive for profits. And then put the two together, because the answer to the second one is something to do with leadership, right? But probably more than that. So that's the general question. How does an EOC company use leadership in different ways? And how does an EOC company shift the center of gravity towards unity, reciprocity, and so on? I think Jim wants to talk about leadership.
I saw my hand up already. Okay, thanks. Well, when I first started my career, I was an employee, not in a supervisory position. And about a year later, my boss left, and I didn't know who else to promote, so I got the job. And all of a sudden, I was a supervisor. And I don't know if you've ever been in that role or that situation where you were promoted into something that you weren't prepared for, or that no one had trained you for. But let's say I learned on the job. It was on-the-job training, and gosh, I made a lot of mistakes those first couple of years in that job, and I thought, gosh, there's got to be a better way to prepare somebody for it. And by the way, this was in the Human Resources Department, where you'd think we know a little bit about training and development and preparation for promotions, but nonetheless, I think we've all been in that situation where we've either been thrown into the deep end of the pool without having a bit of swimming lessons. And we've also had bosses who have been not good bosses, who we would say, I'll never work for a person like that again, or I hope I never become like that person. And so why is that? Does that boss wake up in the morning thinking, who can I really get mad at today? Who can I really get mad at me today? No, I don't think any boss really does that. But, in that first job, I thought I was being a nice guy, and I thought I knew what to do, just be nice, and, just make sure they have what they need, and everything will be fine. But really what I came to realize, and as we all really know, that it requires more preparation than that. And there are many, many EOC leaders, and bosses, and CEOs, and business owners who haven't really had formalized leadership training. And so what do we do with that? What can we provide, or how can leaders who want to be consistent with the principles of leading an EOC business be prepared for that? And so we really tried to do some work, both in my business as well as with Consulus in Singapore in their global network, to create leadership tools, development tools, and even a model which really gets at not just the competencies of the leader, but the character of the leader. Because the leader brings their whole person to their leadership, not just their leadership competence or what they know about managing, what they know about finance, what they know about, the various aspects of the business, but it's also that person who brings their presence, their values, their virtues, their heart and their spirit, how they think. Are they open-minded, to other points of view? Are they inclusive in that? Are they willing to listen? How do people feel when they come in the room? Is it like, oh no, what's going to happen now? What's he going to bring today? Or is it, wow, good, I get a chance to sit down with this person who I really respect. And so those are the kinds of competencies or the kinds of capabilities or characteristics that we've developed programs to teach. And so we hope that the first US-based version of this program, which we call Global Leaders for Unity, and it's the intellectual property for it's owned by Constellus, not me, but it's hopefully going to be at Indiana University in Indiana. They've become interested in offering it in Indianapolis, the Indianapolis campus, as a part of their School of Public and Environmental Affairs Executive Development Program. So I hope that really happens. It's supposed to be April, which is not that far away, so there's a lot to do. But the point being that there needs to be programs and opportunities for this development to occur, because it doesn't happen just because we have the spirit or the will or the desire to be a good leader and to be able to lead with these principles out front of the dignity of the person, keeping the person in the center, the dignity of work, the common good, all these Catholic social teaching principles that really fit very closely with the EOC principles. It's not just knowing them, but how do we live them? And it takes practice, it takes a willingness to learn, to be able to develop those. They don't just happen because we have the desire.
First experience I remember of being leader in an EOC way happened one time. We had about 10 employees, and it was one of those kind of time periods where you would go into the kitchen of the company and there were dishes piled in the sink and cups not put away, and it was just a mess. And the whole office kind of had that feel, So one time I remember thinking, all the employees went to lunch, and I remember thinking, I need to love the employees. I need to like walk the walk, right? So I decided I spent my entire lunch washing the dishes, taking out the trash, cleaning up, straightening up the kitchen. And then I didn't have lunch that day. I went back to my office. And so employees came back, and a couple went into the kitchen, and it was like this mumbling sound, like, what happened? It's like, it became apparent I was the only one who didn't go to lunch that day, and the office was cleaned by this pixie, or whatever. And what was interesting is that after that was done, people started cleaning up their part of the office. The copier room was put away, things were done. And by the end of the day, there was this like calm that had come over the office. And I thought, this is kind of, it was a small leadership thing, right? But it was inspired by the EOC and PR and loving the employees. And it also said the president of the company can take out the trash and do the dishes and all that kind of stuff. So I think in small EOC businesses, 1 to 5, 10 people, it's all about those day-to-day interactions and walking the walk.
I want to say a word about employee relations, because that can be a challenge. People are not always easy to manage or to work with. One of my good friends was the HR director for the Indianapolis Zoo, and he said the animals are easy compared to the employees. I can kind of appreciate that, having worked in HR for quite a while. But how do we make these difficult decisions, when it comes to people? And I'll give a good example of a company that was not an EOC company, but I was doing research on ethical leadership what is ethical leadership, and how do you learn to do the right thing? And what is the right thing, and how do I know it's the right thing? So I was talking to this company, it's Mitchell Restaurants, are based in Columbus, Ohio, because I heard that they were very person-centered, that was their whole philosophy of work. And so I was talking with the owner, and I said, give me an example of a time when you were person-centered, and what did that mean? What did you do in that situation? And it didn't take him long to come up with one. He said, we had an employee in a restaurant who we eventually caught taking money out of the cash register, and had been doing it for quite a while. And so the HR director came to me and said, Cameron, we need to let this person go. She's been caught stealing. And he said, not so fast. I want to know more about this. What was going on? Why was she stealing? And what's going on in her life? I want to know. So the HR director went back to the restaurant manager and said, tell me more about this person. And so as he dug into it, found out that she actually had a drug problem. And she was stealing the money to buy the drugs. So not something you want to obviously continue, but he said to the HR director, you know what? Let's sit down and talk with this person and say, you're probably in a situation that you don't want to be in at this point. You don't want to be addicted to the degree where you have to steal money, and you don't want to lose your job. Is that right? So they sat down and talked with her, and the answer was, this is something that I've been struggling with for years, and I just have not been able to beat it. I don't know what to do. So they gave her another chance. They said, we're going to allow you an opportunity to make the decision to go into a rehab program to address the problem. And if you can resolve this and not get caught, not steal again, you can stay on. So she took the time off to go do the rehab and came back and became a good employee. Had they taken the initial step of automatically, well, if you steal, you're fired, then she'd be gone and probably still on drugs. And so this was a person-centered decision, employee relations, and the person was kept in the center.
Wanted to maybe focus on a different point is thinking about what's different in an EOC business, especially as an entrepreneur. And as I get older, I get more and more comfortable being more explicit about what game I want to play. And so when we hire people, when they join us, I don't have to, when I say have them find out, I want to tell them explicitly, this is the game I want to play. Do you want to play this game with us? And let me tell you what we stand for. And many people, it's a different conversation. Yes, it's about their job. And I still make the point of, we are now 100 people, of interviewing every final candidate for the job for that particular aspect, to make sure that we have a cultural fit, that they understand us, the game we want to play, and we understand them, to make sure they have either they want to play or they have the potential. Because sometimes you find people that they have bad habits, but maybe they want to give it a try and throw themselves into this and see if they can overcome them. And so that's something I think that is important in UC business, to be explicit about the rules of the game, and it's also a commitment for ourselves. Every time I tell them what I want to live about, for me it's like an examination of conscience, because I tell them what they're going to measure me against. Because if I don't live it, I'm going to be the first one they're going to at some point offend into. And we found a way to now, because of that, it's something we can speak explicitly in the company. So every quarter, during our quarterly review, we review not only our performance, but also review how do we live our values, and what did we do well, what did we fail, and ask about myself as well. And I think that's important in terms of leadership at every level in the company
I just had an experience to share. Last week, it was something I always wanted to do, but we didn't really have the right setting for it. But last week, at the end of the week, we sat down to do a checkout. It was at 4:30 on a Friday, and I I was like, I need to do this because I need to find some space to show as a leader that I appreciate and I see some great things that have happened over the week. So we sat down and I started sharing like, oh, I see this in you, you're you know, open to direction, you're opening yourself to learning, new things, all that. And then I shared it with each employee and what they're doing. And the one thing I didn't expect was then they took their turn to share also what they saw through the week. And it was this moment of reciprocity where they said, well, Liz, we see everything that you have to carry and all the responsibility that you're carrying in trying to get this all going, and we just want you to know that we're patient with you in this process. It was like, oh, well, it's just like this big relief. I'm so glad that you're patient with me in all of this, because really every day we're bringing our whole selves. We're not bringing our strengths. We're bringing our strengths and weaknesses, and we're working together on them. And so just creating that space to share with each other it was only, you know, a 10-15 minute conversation that we took out of the week to just check in with each other. And after that, it was one of those things like, oh, you know, in my head, best practices, we should be doing this every day. And really it came down to it's like, maybe we just need to do this once a week and it would be enough. And so it's not a huge impact on our productivity or learning how to work, but really adds value and eases when we do have conflict with each other. We already know how to have conversations with each other, because we're not just pointing out all the bad things that are happening, we're also pointing out the good things that are happening.
Thank you. We have just 5 minutes left, and we have one last question, and it's mostly for the practitioners over here. What do you do to find strength to keep this going? Nick mentioned coming to the annual conference is a good way of, do you have other kind of networks, communities, ways of reinforcing each other? We just got an idea from this. In terms of maintaining the spirit of economy of communion.
I think that the one thing certainly is the community, right? And the Focal community at large. But I think, to be honest, morning meditation is really what keeps me going. If I do not spend that half hour meditating on a daily basis, things fall apart. And when the few days I miss that, my day unravels. It's not that it doesn't unravel just the same if I do, right? But at least give me an anchor, and an anchor I can repeat. It's to me it's fundamental.
Others?
I've been lucky enough to kind of operate at a lot of different levels in this EOC, and for me, there's at least once a day I'm speaking with someone in the EOC somewhere, whether it's an email I received from one of you all, or someone from Ireland, or someone from Africa. So it kind of keeps me connected. Like, oh, I remember I'm supposed to be doing. That's right. I run an EOC business, right? So it's that little touch communication, and it can just be one email on one day that sets my course. So for me, that's part of it. Paul?
Yeah, one thing is just to say about EOC companies, not like because it's EOC, it's easy. Running a company is always very difficult, very challenging, and I think for even running EOC is doubly challenging because you have your conscience, you have the thing that you have to do it well, you're part of the economy, so it's kind of doubly challenged. So I said, why do you do it? So to me, besides the meditation, which is very important, is the sense of mission. That there's a gift here in the charism that's been given to us. It's much bigger than than what we are. We're just cooperating for something bigger, so that's two. The other thing is the employees. They get me going. There's a lot of creativity going in there and a sense of responsibility. And then the other thing is the competitors. The competitors is the thing that also motivates me because we build each other. You know, there was a question about competitors of winners and losers. Unfortunately, in my business, there are winners and losers, and there's a lot of competitors. And I like competitive, and I like that. But the problem that I see is that to win, you have to kill the others. You have to destroy the other competitors, and that is the problem. So to me, that drives me. That if I could make my competitors also successful, it makes me much more successful, and we'll all win in the game. So that's a big driving force to run. Why you would run a company this way.
Thank you very much. Yes, so Jim has.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that we did have some handouts we brought that might be helpful to you. There's the vision and values of EOC companies. There is guidelines for EOC companies in each of the different colors of the areas of really the business. And also on leadership, two handouts about models for leadership and some articles about leadership in EOC companies. And feel free to take them. Or if there aren't enough, just let me know and I'll get you some.
Thank you.
So, real practical, here's what else we can do. I'll be starting up monthly calls. Where we'll carry on the work we began here today. And so I'm going to give a handout and hope some of you can join during the monthly call, or let me know if there's a better time for us to do that. So I'll go ahead and hand those out now.
Thank you, John. So all that remains is to thank our panel and our extra panel. Thank you to all of you for sticking with us for 2 whole hours. Terrific for all your really great questions. And God bless you all. It's been a real treat to be with you. Thank you.
Thanks again.